Have you ever noticed that there are sounds you've never heard but feel? Perhaps it's a faint, subtle frequency, like a call deep within your chest. Or maybe it's an absence, a kind of silence that vibrates as if it's hiding something. That's always been there. It's not music, it's not noise. It's a vibration that cuts through time, through matter, through you. What if I told you that sound is the language of ancient gods? That long before we carved symbols into stone or spoke words through gritted teeth, we vibrated in harmony with the universe? This isn't just a poetic metaphor, it's a forgotten truth. The ancients knew, the initiated heard, because sound, the primordial sound, isn't just something you hear, it's something that unlocks. We are surrounded by codes, but some can only be deciphered if you listen with your body, with your soul, with the invisible field that runs through you. Have you ever wondered why a simple song can soothe a child? Why certain melodies make you cry for no reason? Or why silence sometimes screams louder than any word? Maybe it's not just emotion. Maybe it's vibrational memory. Maybe it's a vibrational frequency stored in the unconscious, like a fragment of what you were before you knew your name. There's a story I need to tell you. It's not written in books, but it hides in the veils of myth, where reality and symbol touch. It's said that in forgotten times, there was a temple atop a mountain where priests didn't use words to teach. They chanted sounds, and the disciples in silence wept, remembering something they'd never lived. One of those disciples was mute. He had never uttered a single syllable. But on the 10th day of sonic meditation, as he heard the deepest tone vibrating through the stone columns, he screamed, not in pain, in recognition. In that sound, he heard himself, and in hearing himself, he was set free. The story is symbolic, but there's something in it that invites you to reflect. How many sounds have you ignored out of fear of what you might feel if you truly listened? Could it be that what you call noise is actually a hidden key trying to awaken you? In Jung's analytical psychology, the collective unconscious holds universal archetypes, primordial images that structure our experience. But what few realize is that these images can also be activated by sounds that carry symbols, vibrations that bypass the intellect and go straight to the field that has no name. That's why certain mantras, even without translation, have an impact. That's why certain notes, when played repeatedly, induce altered states of consciousness. It's not superstition, it's neuroscience, and it's also magic. The primordial sound is a direct line between the invisible and the visible, between chaos and form, between trauma and energetic healing. That's why you feel what you feel when certain frequencies touch you, because they remind your soul of what your ego tried to forget. Have you ever heard a sound and felt time stop? It wasn't just an emotional reaction, it was an activation. The right vibration at the right moment doesn't just touch, it disarms. It dissolves psychic walls, reaches places even you can't look at, and from there, it pulls to the surface. Something that's been waiting to be heard for lifetimes. Does that sound like an exaggeration? Then answer me this. Why do you remember the sound of a voice that left years ago, but forget the face? Why do certain songs break you down, even when they're not in your language? Because sound reaches you before the rational filter. Because sound carries meanings that don't need words, and the invisible within you knows this. In Egyptian mythology, it's said that Thoth, the god of wisdom, created the universe with the spoken word. But that word wasn't ordinary language. It was pure sound, sacred vibration, and from that sound, form was born. From the invisible that sings came the visible that weighs. In Kabbalah, the names of God aren't just designations, they're sounds that reveal states of consciousness. And in shamanic traditions, like those involving ayahuasca, the song is the bridge between worlds. the Icaros. Sacred chants guide the soul through visions, not because they say something, but because they vibrate something. Have you ever wondered what lies behind what you call musical taste? Is your body just choosing melodies, or is it seeking codes that resonate with specific wounds? Modern science is starting to talk about this, though in a different language. Researcher Masaru Emoto conducted experiments with water crystals. When exposed to words of love or harmonious songs, the crystals formed beautifully. But when subjected to aggressive sounds or hateful words, they fragmented chaotically. You are made of over 70% water. Think about that. Now imagine what happens inside you when you're exposed daily to sounds that drain you. News broadcasts laden with fear, noisy environments, empty words, anxious conversations. You're not just listening, you're absorbing vibration. But here's the good news: just as sound can harm, it can heal. This is the foundation of many energetic healing practices. It's not the rational content that heals, it's the vibration that reaches, the subtle field. You could be emotionally stuck for years, and 5 minutes of the right sound, in the right state, can open something within you, like someone knocking from the other side of an invisible gate, and finally, you hear. There's a story I like to tell. It's about a woman named Nara. She was 38 and carried an unresolved grief. She lost her father very young and never reconnected with any sense of spirituality. She closed off. She grew up. She rationalized. One day, she was invited to a sound experience. Nothing too mystical. Just ancestral instruments played at a slow frequency with blindfolds. At first she laughed, thought it was strange, thought it was a waste of time, but on the third beat of the drum, when the skin reverberated with the ground, something broke. She started to cry, then to tremble, and then she heard her father's voice, not with her ears, with her chest. It said, "You still hear me even without knowing." That wasn't memory. It was vibrational reconnection. The right frequency had reached the wordless pain and given form to what was once just a block. So I ask you, what pain in you hasn't yet found a sound to release it? What part of you just needs the right frequency to finally bloom? You don't need to understand everything, but you need to start listening with intention, because sound doesn't lie. Sound is a messenger of what lies beyond, and the invisible never stops speaking. Have you ever noticed that certain moments in life have a sound, not a literal sound, but an inner vibration that marked you, as if the universe had struck a note? And everything changed from there. Birth has a sound, death has a sound, beginnings, endings, leaps into the unknown. They all carry invisible frequencies that linger within us as memories we can't translate but also can't forget. And this reveals something profound. Life doesn't happen in silence. It happens in vibration, and every choice you make, every thought you nurture, every emotion you suppress or set free, also emits sound, not for the outer ear, but for the energetic field, for the collective unconscious, for what Jung called the invisible structure of psychic reality. That's why some encounters happen without words, looks that vibrate on another frequency, presences that lift you up or drain you. Even without a single sentence, you're constantly within an invisible sonic field. But only when you silence yourself within can you perceive it. In ancient Eastern traditions like Nada Yoga, the primordial sound is considered the fabric of the universe, the idea that before light, there was sound, not as noise, but as vibrational intention that creates form. This sound is called anahata, the unstruck sound, the eternal sound that resonates without cause. It's the sound of the spiritual heart, and according to the sages, it's always playing within you, even when you don't hear it. That's why when you enter deep silence, when you lie in the dark and breathe slowly, Sometimes you feel something vibrating. It's not imagination, it's the field trying to reveal itself. Have you ever thought about how many answers have already been given to you, but you didn't hear because you were waiting for words when the universe was only willing to whisper in sound? There's a symbol in many cultures, the bell. In Christianity, it announces transition. In India, it marks the beginning and end of sacred practices. In Buddhism, the bell awakens. In shamanism, it summons. But in every case, it's used to open the portal, not as an object, but as a frequency that reorganizes the subtle space. What if you started to see yourself as a bell, as a hollow body that vibrates when touched by the right frequency? What part of you is out of tune with who you truly are? And what would happen if you let the frequency of your essence ring louder than the noise of the world? The truth is you already know what you need to hear, but you might be afraid to become what you'll hear because sound has power. It activates, it summons, it reveals, and there are parts of you that fear revelation, not because it's bad, but because it demands transformation. A woman once said, "I discovered who I was the moment I stopped repeating others' words and started singing, the sound that came from my own silence." She didn't mean singing literally. She was talking about an inner state, a tuning between what you feel and what vibrates, between what you live and what you emit. And when she found that frequency, people around her started to change. Some drifted away, others drew closer, but she finally sounded like herself. Are you ready for that? Ready to tune your life to the frequency that calls you from deep within, or will you keep living in the dissonance between what vibrates inside and what you pretend outside? Because the invisible won't stop playing. The question is, will you keep pretending you don't hear? Maybe you don't need more knowledge. Maybe you need listening. Listening not with your ears, but with your body, with your field, with the silence between one thought and another. Because there's a language that lives in the pause, between the noise of the world and the truth of the soul, and that language is sound in its purest form, not the sound measured in decibels, but the one felt as truth before it becomes a word. That's why so many heal through song, why a drum can bring someone back from collapse, why certain sounds are banned by systems of control. They awaken parts that can no longer be tamed, because sound is prior to obedience, prior to fear, prior to logic. The primordial sound is sacred revolution. It doesn't ask if it can enter, it enters and it reorganizes. Have you noticed that the biggest decisions in your life weren't made with rational clarity, but with a vibration that said, "This is the way"? That's the sound that comes from within, the sound that comes from the other side. And when the two meet, something happens. Call it energetic healing, call it spiritual reconnection, call it alignment. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're already hearing it. Your life itself has been touching you with notes you don't understand. But feel, and to ignore that call is to ignore your own soul when it sings. But before I finish, let me leave you with an image. Picture a dark cave. In it, a smooth stone at the center. Above it, a drop of water, falling drop by drop on the same spot for millennia. You don't see the sound of that fall, but it's there. And over time, that vibration carves the rock. The invisible transforms the visible. So it is with you. Maybe you don't see it yet, but the right sound at the right frequency is sculpting your soul, and sooner or later you will become the perfect form of what has been vibrating silently within you for centuries.